Do ALML oriented wireless LAN systems like Mist have practical advantages in real world enterprises over traditional solutions from Cisco and Aruba? So we're distinguishing traditional from some of the new ALML stuff here. And then are these fancy new AI/ML solutions mature enough to meet medium to large enterprise needs? So people that are listening to this, we had discussed this in the back channel a little bit, and no one wanted to bite except Phil a little bit. So Phil, why don't I get your take on this? Just I have some opinions, but let's start with you at least to get
Okay.
your opinion and see where it goes.
This is what I get for like raising my little finger a little bit.
That's right. You're on the spot, buddy.
Where'd that bus go that I just want? So, I'm going to answer the second question first. Are they mature enough to meet medium to large enterprise needs? I don't even think I'm going to differentiate between medium to large and small enterprise. I don't know if that's necessarily answerable at this moment because this is relatively new stuff coming out. So maybe the answer is no, it's not mature enough, but maybe it is. We need some time to see how this plays out and tests out in these medium and large enterprises. But to go back to number one, then, do AI ML oriented WLAN systems like Mist, and I'll stay focused with Mist, have practical advantages? Yeah, absolutely, because we're seeing a lot of those things becoming requirements, like location services and the analytics that flow from that, and a lot of that stuff is so compute intensive and resource intensive that it's difficult to do that at large scale if you don't have incredible resources in your data center or data centers. And so to be able to offload that and do that with agility, so you can change platforms and things to cloud services, it does make a lot of sense because then you can scale up and scale that, appropriately. And whether that's just differentiating between a location and finding out where things are, and tracking that over time, which is an enormous amount of data unto itself, and then doing things like the analytics on where people are going and devices are going and what kind of devices are connecting and how to push information to those devices. Again, very resource intensive. So offloading it to, kind of maturing cloud provider style wireless, it makes sense to me. Now, the AI ML component, yeah, I mean that's kind of what's necessary to make that magic happen, is to look at that tremendous amount of data and then the compute resources to do something with that data. So that's where the AI ML comes in. Remember, AI ML they're almost always going to be discussed in tandem because ML is part of the AI umbrella. Machine learning algorithms are used for artificial intelligence to make decisions and do things. And it's difficult to do that on premises, and it's difficult to do that when you have those monolithic appliances sitting in your data center. And so I think they're very relevant. I think that that as they mature, we're going to see how they play out. And I'll end with this: relevant to certain verticals. I don't know. I can go in. I can't, but I know sales guys that can sell ice to penguins. No, wait, is that right? Ice to people in Antarctica, whatever. They can sell things that people don't necessarily need. So do you need all that stuff in a medium-sized enterprise? Maybe not. That's a different question. But I think that especially what Mist is doing is very relevant, and I think is really cool too, especially in retail, healthcare, hospitals, things like that.
We have talked to Mist. We have been briefed by them at Packet Pushers. I've talked to at least one Mist employee who was newly hired there because he was so impressed by the technology he made the jump. Juniper has also stated publicly that a big part of the reason they bought Mist wasn't because they need a wireless play, although they do. That is part of the answer. But they also were finding other use cases within their Juniper ecosystem that the AI ML technology Mist has, what they've created. They're going to do other things with it. They want to apply that to other parts of their world. So there does seem to be, in the case of Mist, something real there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't call it mature because it just hasn't been around that long, but everything I'm hearing indicates that there's something real going on with Mist where things like channel planning and appropriate amount of radiated power and so on can be done in an automated way that is going to make a strong fit in your environment. Apparently, these are the things
more
that
than
we're
automated,
hearing.
I'd say. And that's where I think that this fits into the intent-based networking paradigm on probably the data center and the wired network, applying it now to the wireless network, because sticking with Mist, now you can do autonomous operations and repair of issues. So that's even beyond just simple automation. So that's the way that we're going in networking across the board. So yeah, absolutely.
I've had a question that I'd like to ask the rest of the panel, I think, around this. Like, I mean, I think in terms of the maturity of course, going for the bleeding edge technology in your enterprise isn't necessarily the wisest of ideas, but considering how much time it takes an engineer to troubleshoot Wi-Fi problems, like, the significant part of the week, I'm sure, is often spent troubleshooting Wi-Fi that can be a notoriously complicated thing. Is there an advantage in this particular case if AI-driven Wi-Fi solutions promise to reduce that time? Is it worth taking a gamble on the fact that it isn't as mature, that it's a bit more bleeding edge, if it means there might be a return in the hours that you save?
I take what Phil said, but I would add a note of caution in that my understanding of machine learning is that it needs really large data sets to get significant results. So this isn't something you're going to turn on in your environment in the first week and start getting amazing results if it gets results at all. It's got to collect data. It's got to have baselines to compare against. So I just feel very skeptical because we've been burned in the past in terms of having these systems like SIEM systems and IDSs and so on that collect all this data and are supposed to do analyses and make decisions, and none of them have really worked out great. And now that we're just stamping ML and AI on it, are we really getting anything different? That's where I have questions and caution.
So in a way, there's like a not only a combination of the immaturity of the product, but also we don't have the data set yet.
The data set's going to come, listen to what the vendors are saying. The data set is not going to come from your network. I mean, it's partly your network, but the data set, especially for vendors that are putting this out there as a cloud technology and they sell it as a service, they're collecting data from a tremendous number of networks and using that as their data set. Mm-hmm. How that applies to individual networks, I don't know. You got to ask a computer scientist and their internal people how that works, but that's not just your data. So how does that play out? I don't know. And I know several of the large vendors, that's exactly where they're headed.